Orange County, California. A woman sits alone in a county holding cell. Her bail is set at $1 million. The charges against her carry a maximum sentence of life in prison. She has never met the woman she is accused of stalking. 88 days. That is how long Michelle Hadley will spend behind bars before anyone in law enforcement seriously entertains the possibility that the evidence against her was manufactured. Not misread, not misunderstood, manufactured. To understand how Michelle Hadley ended up in that cell, you have to understand the wreckage of an ordinary breakup and the particular vulnerabilities of 2015 Southern California, where a shared mortgage and a functioning inbox were all the raw material two people needed to destroy a third. In 2015, Michelle Hadley and Ian Diaz, then engaged, bought a condominium together in Anaheim. The relationship ended before the purchase could be untangled. Diaz kept the unit. Hadley, according to court filings, remained financially tied to the mortgage, a debt that outlived the relationship and became, by every account, an open wound between them. Diaz did not stay single long. He met and married a woman named Angela Connell, who took the name Angela Diaz, and the couple moved into the condo Hadley had once shared with her ex-fiancé. The dispute over the mortgage did not end. It simply acquired a new address. This was also a specific moment in the evolution of digital harassment law. By 2016, California prosecutors and police departments had spent roughly a decade building the legal architecture for cyberstalking cases, restraining orders that could be issued on the strength of screenshots and email headers, statutes written for a world of anonymous accounts and disposable identities. That architecture was built, largely, on the assumption that the person reporting the harassment was the victim of it. Digital evidence, an email, a Craigslist post, an IP address, was still treated by many patrol-level officers as something closer to a paper trail than a crime scene, presented, logged, and believed, rather than independently authenticated. That assumption is what the case would eventually exploit. On June 1, 2016, Ian and Angela Diaz went to the Anaheim Police Department and reported that Angela had been receiving threatening emails from someone using the handle "Lilith is Truth," messages that accused her of stealing Ian away and warned she would pay for it, according to accounts of the police reports. The couple told officers they believed the sender was Michelle Hadley. Angela Diaz was, at the time, presenting herself to police and to her community as pregnant. Within weeks, the allegations escalated. Someone had allegedly created a fake Craigslist profile using Angela's photographs and solicited men for what the ad described as a rape fantasy encounter at the Anaheim condo. The stakes, in other words, were never abstract. A pregnant woman, by her own account, was being terrorized in her own home by a jealous ex. Every social and institutional instinct available to Anaheim police in 2016 pointed toward protecting her and pursuing the person she named. It would take 5 more years, a second law enforcement agency, and a fundamentally different kind of forensic scrutiny to determine that almost none of it was what it appeared to be. The initial Anaheim Police Department investigation worked from the evidence in front of it, and on paper, that evidence looked overwhelming. The "Lilith is Truth" emails reference details investigators say matched information only a small number of people could plausibly know. According to reporting on the case, some of the messages contained turns of phrase and religious references that Hadley herself had used in emails to Diaz years earlier. After the couple's breakup, Hadley has said she sent him a handful of messages invoking the name Lilith during what she has described as a difficult period. That earlier, genuine correspondence became, in the hands of whoever was writing the threatening emails, a kind of stylistic template, and it gave the fabricated messages a surface plausibility that pointed investigators toward Hadley almost by design. Then came the events of June 24th, 2016. Angela Diaz called 911 and reported that a man had entered the condo's garage and attempted to assault her before she fought him off. Police records describe her presenting with a torn shirt and visible redness consistent with a struggle. Hadley was arrested that day, then released on bond. A second arrest warrant followed in July, with felony charges that included stalking, criminal threats, and assault with intent to commit rape during a residential burglary. If convicted, she faced life. One detail did not fit, and almost no one stopped to ask why. The threatening emails kept arriving even after Hadley's release, during a window when investigators would later note she did not yet have regained access to her own accounts. At the time, that read as evidence of a stalker undeterred by consequences. In hindsight, it was the first sign that someone else was still writing them. The early investigation's blind spot wasn't a lack of digital forensic tools. By 2016, IP tracing and email header analysis were standard capabilities. It was institutional, a municipal department working a fast-moving case with a cooperating, sympathetic complainant and an already issued restraining order, had little incentive to turn its forensic scrutiny on the reporting party's own devices instead of just the accused's. The audit that finally did came from an unrelated direction entirely. Because Ian Diaz held a position as a U.S. Marshal, his conduct fell under a separate jurisdiction once questions about the case began to surface. The Department of Justice's Office of the Inspector General opened its own cyber investigation, not originally to exonerate Hadley, but to examine Diaz. Their question wasn't, did Michelle send these messages? It was, who actually created them? That is not the same question, and asking it would unravel everything that came before. The official record, as it stood through late 2016, described a straightforward stalking case. A scorned ex-fiancé, unable to let go of a broken engagement and a disputed mortgage, escalating from threatening emails to an orchestrated sexual assault plot against her rival. Michelle Hadley was jailed on that record for 88 days. The forensic reality, once investigators finally looked in the right place, was almost the inverse. According to the Anaheim Police Department's own later account, cyber investigators tracing the IP addresses behind the Lilith is Truth emails found they did not originate from Hadley's devices or network at all. The emails traced back toward the condominium, the home shared by Ian and Angela Diaz, the people who had reported receiving them. The Craigslist rape fantasy solicitation followed the same pattern under closer examination. Investigators determined that whoever posted the ad and corresponded with the man who eventually showed up at the condo had done so with an efficiency that did not fit a stranger fumbling through dozens of unrelated online ads. Federal investigators would later note that whoever answered that specific Craigslist post did so on essentially the first attempt, a pattern far more consistent with someone who already knew which ad and which respondent mattered. The most conclusive evidence took years, not weeks, to surface, and it came from a source no one had reason to search in 2016, Ian Diaz's own government-issued laptop. Word processing software of the type used on that machine routinely generates temporary background files as a document is drafted, files designed to protect against a lost save. not to protect against forensic discovery. DOJ Special Agent Jason Higley's team, auditing backups of that laptop years after the original case closed, recovered fragments of a "Lilith is truth" email embedded in exactly that kind of residual file. The message Angela Diaz had reported receiving as a victim appeared to have been drafted, at least in part, on her husband's federal government laptop. Layered on top of the digital evidence was the human one. Angela Diaz had also represented to friends, family, and apparently to investigators that she was pregnant and, according to later reporting, that she was undergoing treatment for cervical cancer, complete with fabricated medical documentation. Neither claim held up under scrutiny. The pregnancy that had made her, in the eyes of Anaheim police and the surrounding community, an especially sympathetic and urgent complainant in June 2016, was not real. A detail that had shaped the speed and severity of the response to Hadley's arrest, without ever itself being verified. One by one, the pillars of the original case gave out. The emails, the Craigslist post, the pregnancy, the injuries. Not one of them was what it had first appeared to be. By January 2017, the Orange County District Attorney's Office had reversed course entirely. Charges against Hadley were dropped, and Angela Diaz was charged in connection with the scheme, ultimately pleading guilty to kidnapping, false imprisonment, forgery, and filing a false police report in exchange for a 5-year sentence. Ian Diaz's role took far longer to establish and prosecute at the federal level. He was not arrested until May 2021 and was not convicted until March 2023 on charges including conspiracy to commit cyberstalking, perjury, and obstruction of a federal matter. On paper, the case is closed. Angela Diaz served her sentence. Ian Diaz was sentenced on June 30th, 2023, to 10 years and 1 month in federal prison and remains incarcerated, with a projected release date of January 31st, 2031. Michelle Hadley was fully exonerated and later filed a federal civil lawsuit against the city of Anaheim and the couple who framed her. But the official record is silent on the question that matters most to anyone who has followed the forensic thread this far. Which of them actually wrote the emails? The documentary team that revisited the case years later put the question to investigators directly and got no clean answer. By the filmmaker's own account, it may never be possible to say with certainty whether Ian or Angela Diaz drafted any single message, only that the two of them built the scheme together. It is unknown, and may remain unknown, whether one spouse was the architect and the other a participant, or whether the Lilith persona was from the beginning a joint creation neither of them will fully claim. What is not in question is the 88 days. What is not in question is that a restraining order, a 911 call, and a set of emails were, for the better part of a year, treated as self-authenticating evidence, because the person presenting them was believed to be the victim. The forensic reality took 5 years and a federal cyber unit to surface. The shadow it leaves behind is not about guilt or innocence. It is about how easily the architecture built to protect victims can be turned by the right person into a weapon against one. The Michelle Hadley case wasn't just a miscarriage of justice. It was a warning. It showed how easily digital evidence can create the illusion of certainty. Screenshots, emails, anonymous accounts, they can tell a story, but unless every piece is verified, they can also tell the wrong one. Michelle Hadley lost 88 days of her freedom because investigators believed the evidence before fully questioning the person who presented it. Years later, It wasn't a confession that uncovered the truth. It wasn't a witness. It wasn't a dramatic courtroom moment. It was a forensic reconstruction, patient enough to question assumptions that everyone else had already accepted. And maybe that's the real lesson this case leaves behind. In an age where almost every crime leaves a digital footprint, the most dangerous evidence isn't always the evidence that's been erased. Sometimes, it's the evidence everyone is certain they already understand. I'm Andrew, and this is True Untouched. Until next time, question the evidence before you accept the story.